Greetings, metallurgists. Marty Worm has returned for yet another review for you. This time we're going to be talking about leather trench coats, cowboy hats, pensive sky gazing in a church. Could this be the next Fields of the Nephilim album? No, today we'll be talking about the supergroup known as Vltimas. So let's get into it. How's it going, everyone? I'm here today to talk to you about the second full-length album from the international supergroup known as Vltimas. The name of the album is Epic, and it releases today, March 15th, 2024, via Season of Mist Records. Now, when I say supergroup, for those of you that may have missed out on the fairly good 2019 release, Something Wicked Marches In, Vltimas is a supergroup of Rune, Erickson, Blasphemer from Mayhem and Noir and Ruim fame, David Vincent from Morbid Angel fame, and Flo Mounier from Cryptopsy on drums. And for this album, they've added a guitar player from Corpus Christi and a bass player from a Dutch band that I cannot remember the name of. So that's why you come here for your information. When I first heard this band, I did not know what to expect and was quite interested to hear because all three of these musicians have found considerable amount of listening hours in my CD players and turntables, you name it. But how would David Vincent sound fronting a black metal musician? How would that demographic work? And, you know, it actually works quite well. Aside from a few things here and there on this record, it's a very solid album. And, you know, it's one of those things, you get it, you listen to it a lot when you first get it, it goes into the stack and kind of forget about it. So the fact that Epic kind of popped up in a short period of time was kind of a surprise. So I was really looking forward to digging into this one. So a little bit of insight on Epic. I read the interview that came with the press kit, and David Vincent said that the members of this group came together at Vincent's home studio, and they essentially wrote this album all in the same room, all together. And I got to say, the album, though it still represents perfectly what Blasphemer can do guitar-wise, I'm very much a fan of his guitar playing style. He's very unique playing style, the way he structures songs, the way he plays chords. I mean, the whole thing. He's just such an interesting guitar player. Big fan of his new project, Ruim, by the way. That was a definite favorite from last year. But hearing the fact that they created this all in the same room together, it has I don't want to say necessarily blown out jam oriented, but it just seems a little bit more subdued than what I would expect from the levels of craziness that Blasphemer can throw down when he is completely immersed in constructing something different. You could tell they weren't going for something necessarily different here. They were plotting a trajectory that maintained the sound found on the original album, but subdued a little bit more, maybe a little more accessible, not in a pop way, but in a way that recalls on riffs and is just in more of a pocket. And speaking of in a pocket, you talk about Erickson's guitar playing style. You got to also bring up Flo Mounier. He's widely regarded as one of the best drummers out there, and he's very much known for speed, and he largely stays in the pocket on this record. I was kind of surprised. He kind of keeps any excessive flair and crazy rolls to a surprising minimum. But having said that, all of this put together, it's a solid, well-constructed album, but again, it feels like a notch down as far in intensity, though intensity is definitely still on the table, so to speak. Production is clear, powerful, and full of dynamics. Did I mention clear? Yeah, it's pretty clear. Okay, we talked about who's in the band. We talked about the setup and how this band constructed this album. Let's get into the tracks themselves. The title and lead-off track, Epic, strikes me as an odd start due to the subdued nature of the tempo and lack of attack. Vincent growls and warbles over slow, serpentine riff ideas thanks to Blasphemer's atypical and endlessly creative playing style. Good track, kind of surprising how subdued it is. Miserere is next, and perhaps the best and most memorable track on the album thanks to the punchy energy. Thrash-fueled riffs present exacting, palm-muted speed crunching that swells into airy tremolo melody lines. Fantastic solo work sticks with memorable melody over chaos before the song ends on a brief melodic outro riff that sounds lifted from the grooves of a King Diamond album. David's vocal choices on this track are a glimpse into most of the different styles he executes on this album, but leaning more on the extreme or raspy side of his performance. We're going to get more into the vocal performance here in a minute, so stick with me, folks.
Face of fire in silence. No word says that sounds the first to go. Redemptive crucifixion.
Exitus Aray is an even faster track where Blasphemer effortlessly unites the thrashy side of his time with Noir with twisted segments that puts me in mind of Ordo Ad Chaos from Mayhem. David implements more of a harsh talking style in his performance over the verse, but then he brings back a strained warble as he tries to put more of an emotive emphasis over certain musical moments. When the moment in the song happens when the lyrical line, marching, marching, happens, it puts me in mind of the chanting style found on songs like Destructos versus the Earth from, remember this classic? There it is. Look at it. Look at it!
Battle of all ages, embrace of fear in our enemies' eyes. Marching, marching, with a victors for all time. We spread the gospel of the warriors divine.
When we get to Manifesto, the vocal performance on this track is easily the most troublesome on the album. For me. The verse and chanted chorus lines again bring back Destructos versus the Earth in his stylistic choices. Does it fit the song? I guess. Do I like it? Man, I don't. I really don't. He ends the track with a spoken word piece in a kind of a chastising tone that's goofy and just puts the final nail in the coffin of a mid-paced and largely uninteresting song. And I guess now would be a good time to really get into the vocals on this record. First, I want to preface this by saying that David Vincent, for the longest time, was one of my all-time favorite death metal singers. You know, from Altars of Madness, through Blessed Are the Sick, through Covenant, through Domination. He just had so much character. And as he went his death metal singing style, he really put in a lot of enunciation. His diction was great, and he would just had a stately manner and a charisma that not only came across on the album, it really came across on stage. He's an excellent frontman. He's an excellent singer. And with a band like Vltimas, he's not playing an instrument live. He's not playing an instrument in recording. So he can go in there and try new things, which I'm going to say it. I applaud him for trying new things. And he did so. He tried new things on this record too. But I think the thing that really torpedoes this album is the fact that David Vincent returning to Morbid Angel was supposed to be a triumphant return, not a Rob Zombie tribute band sounding album. And there are elements of singing on this record that he's kind of incorporated into his performance moving forward in the bands he's involved in. It wasn't as widespread on this album as it is on Epic. And there's a couple songs here in the middle of the track listing where he's like trying to do this emotive warbling singing style. He's trying to do this chanting thing. You can tell he's trying to expand his creative palette and maybe go out as not necessarily being known as a great death metal singer, but a great singer. And again, I applaud the attempt. He's really going in here and trying to do different things to help these songs. But the things that he seems to fall back on a lot, that seems easy for him, and he seems to like the whole Destructo, the chanting, you know, that talking kind of chanting style of talking / singing. For some reason, he thinks that we like that. Maybe you guys do. I don't necessarily care for it. I don't need him death growling the whole time. His singing voice isn't bad. But in this context, it sounds a bit goofy. And thankfully, there's like 2 songs in the middle here where he does it a bit, but he seems to get it out of his system. Having said all of that, we are back seemingly on track with Scorched. This is a quick tempo track with tireless double bass. Its dissonant yet powerful riff work lends an uneasy feeling, and David capitalizes on it with his most classic death rattle styled vocalizations found on this album. It brings back to mind the early years of Morbid Angel for me. It is a welcome return, and the quality in this track somehow gives me the recharge I needed to see this album through to the end. Invictus benefits from a very clever and catchy guitar flourish as David moans the name of the song over this dissonant yet strangely melodic moment. This is a case where his more experimental vocal attempts work and add dimension without sounding off. Invictus is a solid track indeed.
No path in which he can prevail.
Nature's Fangs is another decent track. David centers on a deeper singing style on this one that once again works fairly well. It offers another side to his multifaceted vocal talents. Again, sometimes his seemingly favorite choices sound off the mark, but when he keeps it dark, it blends in quite well with Blasphemer's musical vision for this band. Spoils of War takes us out with the longest track on the album, and even though the bulk of it comes from a mid-paced frame of mind, there are plenty of tempo and mood changes within it to keep it interesting. The vocals follow suit and largely work within the song's concept. In closing, Epic has its standout moments initially for me, but due to a few negative critiques I may have had with this album, a solid quarter of this material had to grow on me. It eventually won me over almost on the singular fact that I enjoy Blasphemer's playing and songwriting style so much that it's hard not to like the end result. Is this going to take anything away from the Ruim album that came out in 2023? It isn't. Am I running to the store to buy this record tomorrow? I'm not. But I have enjoyed digging through this, and I think the fact that there was a couple songs that didn't sit with me well, it made me work a little bit harder to keep giving the album a chance and keep coming back to it, because there's a wealth of good vocal ideas and great musical ideas on here. The rhythm section's a little on the boring side, but everything is tight, precise, cuts through. Everything can be heard, the bass lines, every piece of the drum kit, it's all there. David Vincent might be sitting a bit loud in the mix, but don't we always focus on something that bugs us a little bit? I kind of took that into consideration when as I went through this record. But for the most part, the mix is good. It's a solid record, and if you really, really enjoyed something Wicked marches in, I don't think there's anything on here that's going to sync this album. Again, you're going to have to take some time, a little bit of patience, work with it, sit with it. Solid record from a good supergroup. I mean, it's an unlikely supergroup, to be honest, but it works. It somehow works. So yeah, that's it for me. And thanks for watching this review. And if you like what we've been doing here, be sure to subscribe. Me and my colleagues have been knocking these out on a weekly basis. We'd love to have your input, your comments. If you heard the album, why don't you share your thoughts down below in the comment section? We'd love to hear from you. I'm a little slow in responding, but I'll get there eventually. But yeah, that's it. Until next time, take it easy.